I want to talk to you today about how failure is never final. I'm going to tell you more about that in a moment. We're going to tell you more about that in a moment. Let's bring on our co host, Max James.
Opportunity meets preparation, you often get success. Failure is never final.
Welcome back to our channel. We're all about picking ourselves back up from a bad fall and this time making the success that we want to make. So I thank you for joining with us. And we have another very good story for you today to help you bounce back to success. You know, in episode 7, the title is called Luck Meets Preparation. We talk about, well, Max getting not being selected to go to Washington. He went to Washington, and a couple of events, let's call it, occur. Something I think is very, very important. I want to talk to you today about how failure is never final. I'm going to tell you more about that in a moment. We're going to tell you more about that in a moment. Let's bring on our co-host, Max James. Hi, Max.
Hey,
Welcome.
hey, Tony.
How you doing today?
I'm doing great. I'm
You,
doing great.
uh,
Thanks for having me
it,
on again. Appreciate it.
my pleasure. In our last interview, when we did that, you were A. I think you were a B plus. Then you went to A minus. Are we at A minus today?
At least an A minus. I get with you,
Woohoo!
Tony. It's an A triple plus.
I like that. We're having a lot of fun on this. A lot of good lessons. We're taking them in little bite-sized pieces, and I think that's good to just really get in and soak in the lessons, which are very important. Which I've mentioned this before. I've been in corporate America 3 decades. I've been an entrepreneur 3 decades. There's lessons here I have not seen nor heard before, and I love them. So it makes it especially fun for me, and I know for our audience too. I
Good,
already know that.
good,
All
good.
right, let's see here. in your, I may have mentioned some things in your. I'm going to get your book out because there's a good lesson here in your entrepreneurial lessons from the Air Force, which is your chapter 6. You talk about, well, you're doing well, then everything starts crashing. It's like really weird. You had this really great band, the Pikesmen. You had your ups and downs. But what, and I like you to tell us about that, but what really got me was the General Jack Ryan story of basically you failed before you even started. So over to you, Max, kind of fill us in and tell us about that.
Okay, let me back up just a little bit. How did I get to the academy in the first place? Um, I was in high school. My junior year was great. All great things happened. Elected the student body council and president and the band president and the lettered in all that. All that stuff was good. Okay, and then in basketball practice, I got these teeth knocked out, and I thought, oh my goodness, I can't play anymore for a while. And plus, I couldn't play trumpet. You can't blow very hard if you got this thing busted up here. So I didn't make all state band. I didn't. A lot of things just didn't happen well. So I was just really disgusted and depressed. And I thought, this high school thing is just not for me. I've kind of peaked out, and so I thought seriously about quitting. Actually, even though this BMOC, what's that, big man on campus, I'd done all that. So I had a chance to talk to my congressman. And at the end of this interview, I got a letter, and he said, I'd like to invite you up to Washington, D.C., and be my administrative assistant. What? An administrative assistant to a congressman at the age of 17? I asked my dad, and he said, I'm not too sure. I said, come on, Dad. So off I went, which was just really fantastic. I mean, uh, politics is powerful. It's ego boosting. I was driving, chauffeuring around governor of Tennessee when he came up, all kinds of really great things. Anyway, enough of that. So he said, "Okay, you're doing a great job. Folks back home like it because we were writing letters back." He said, "How'd you like to have my job?" Let me see if I understood that. Would I like to be a congressman? Yeah. And I said, "Oh yeah, heck yeah, I'm on it. Let's do it." And he said, "Well, I get about 90% of the vote every time there's an election. I think I can I can help you when I retire." And I said, "Great, this is exciting." So he said, "Number one, you got to finish high school." Congressman, really? I mean, I don't really want to go back. And he said, "Okay, okay, I get it, I get it. Exciting, you're excited about being up here. So here's what we'll do: we'll finish your high school um, by correspondence." I said, "Congressman, Humboldt, Tennessee doesn't have a correspondence school or program for high school." He said, "Lesson one in becoming a congressman. For a congressman, they do." He picks up the phone. He calls the superintendent of the school board. As I recall, he was a banker in town. And he said, and pardon my diction, he said, "Hey there, Howard, how you doing?" He said, "Listen, I got a favor I need from you. You reckon you could do it just for me, your old congressman?" Apparently he said yes. He said, "I got one of your youngins up here doing damn well too. We like him. And so I need you to help me. He needs to finish high school by correspondence. And I know you don't have a correspondence course, but how about doing this? Have his school teachers have him send up all of his homework and all of his books, and I'll see to it that he gets it." Well, the guy must have said, "Well, he's got to take the test, Congressman." He said, "Yeah, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll send him home and he can take the finals." He said,
Wow.
"Okay." So here comes all my books. I did all the work, sent the stuff back. And sure enough, he sent me home. He said, "Okay, number now." He said, "We got that kind of squared away." He said, "You got to go to college. You got to get a college degree if you're going to be a congressman." I said, "Sir, my family doesn't have a lot of money. I'm not sure that I can afford to go to college." He said, "Lesson number two in becoming a congressman. For a congressman, they pay." He said the government pay for damn near anything. So guess what? He
Government
said, "We're
paid
going to
for it.
send you. We're going to send you off to a government school. There's West Point and Annapolis and all those schools." And so he said, "We got to take all those tests, and you got to take the physical exams. You got to do all that stuff." And he said, "Congressmen can appoint kids to go to the academies." So I decided I thought maybe the Air Force Academy was the best. So I did all the preparation, and he nominated me, but he nominated 9 other guys. Okay, wait a second. I thought you were going to send me. He said, I might, but you got to beat these other 9 guys at all the entry stuff for the Air Force Academy. I don't know who other 9 guys were, but how tough could they be, right? This big ego that I have. So guess what? The Air Force Academy didn't select me. Selected one of the other guys from the district, congressman's district, that was a baseball player recruit. The Air Force Academy wanted him. So he got selected, and I didn't. Now, I got to tell you, I was really disappointed, and I thought that it was all over for me. Now, I didn't bother, as I should have, applying to all these other colleges. Doggone ego couldn't fit inside a gymnasium, I guess. I did for sure. Well, that was kind of disappointing. Well, the Air Force Academy gets all these appointments: presidential appointment, congressmen, senators, Medal of Honor winners, all get to go. And some of them decide after they've applied that maybe they don't want to go be hazed for 13 months and go march in formation and get up at 5:30 and so forth and so on. And so they turned it down, or maybe they got a better offer in an intercollegiate athletic opportunity. So they have people that have applied but were not selected, and they call them qualified alternates. So a few weeks after I got this letter saying you're not coming, I got another letter saying congratulations, you've been accepted as a qualified alternate to go to the Air Force Academy. Oh boy, I made it. I made
And
it.
we talked
Failures
a
not
little bit
always
about
fun.
this in an earlier interview. We touched on this, that
Yeah.
you stayed you stayed as qualified as you could, even though you thought,
Yep.
okay, you're not chosen. And then which was one of the key points of continuing trying to make it, that we talked about before.
Right.
And now you've done that, and now here you are, you're this qualified alternate.
When opportunity meets preparation, you often get success. And
Yes.
so the opportunity came, and I was prepared. I had done everything that I needed to do. and was still willing and wanting to go to the academy. And so, yeah, when I was prepared, and failure is never final is another theme here, Tony. I failed, but it wasn't final. Okay, the likely opportunity, came around again, and that's happened all through my career. That all the times that which is how the name of the book came about, right? The
And
harder I
then
fell, the higher I bounced. Yep.
and then we mentioned in a couple of interviews some of your failures, like the last interview, your failures at rugby.
Yep.
You couldn't hold back this charging mountain at you
Right. 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 And ended
and
up in the
diving and all that.
hospital.
You've had these, let's call them successes and failures. And then we get into what I think is the pièce de résistance,
Okay.
the General Jack Ryan episode where it was like, wow, what I mean, it was a great recap here. You've been up and down, and you're still determined. And now you already told you failed before you even go any
Yeah.
further.
Uh, General Ryan, one of his sons was in my squadron at the Air Force Academy, and in fact, we were friends, although we weren't in the same class. And we went back to Washington D.C. The whole Air Force Academy did cadets to march in an inauguration parade for the president. And General Ryan's son, Mike Ryan, who, by the way, became Chief of Staff of the Air Force, my friend, Mike said, Max, how'd you like to go over to my dad's house? And I said, General Ryan, all those stars on his shoulder? And he said, yeah, let's go over there. Would you like to do that? Yeah, that sounds exciting. Plus it's cold and I don't want to stay with this. So off we go. And we go inside, and General Ryan was out of the Curtis LeMay era. His gruff voice, and so we sit down and we had a glass of scotch. And he said, Max, he said, my boy tells me you're quite a leader. He respects you a lot. He said, I guess you're going to go into pilot training, aren't you? And I said, yes, sir, I am. And he said, where are you going? And I said, well, this is new program, General. I'm sure you already know about it. But now there's an opportunity to go into fixed wing like everybody does. But instead of going into final fixed wing, uh, you can go into helicopter training after you got pilot in fixed wing. He said, what? Helicopters? You're going to go to damn helicopters? He said, that'll ruin your whole career. You'll never make major. He said, you should go like I did. You should go into bombers and transport and fighters and get it all. So you got all that experience, and then you'll be all right. Helicopters? I can't believe that. That's the craziest thing I ever heard. Son, get me another scotch. So here I am shrinking down in my chair, and three or four. He ended up being chief of staff, by the way. He was 4-star. 4-star general tells me I'm not even an officer yet. I'm still a cadet wearing boards. A 3 or 4-star general says to me, "You've already failed. You'll never make major." I'm not even an officer yet, and I've already failed. Well, sometimes professionals give you advice that you probably don't need to listen to. Uh, you know the story about you come to the fork in the road and you take one, and Robert Frost said you take the one less traveled, or Yogi Bear said when you come to a fork in the road, take one.
Just take one. Well, what gets me on this is
So
you
I
have,
went to I went my way, Tony. Let me just to end
oh
there.
yes, you
I went
went
to
your way
helicopter.
despite probably three huge events, not events, items blocking you. One, first of all, you're having what we call adult beverages, which is enough to cloud anybody's mind. Now, in our stories here, we've talked about your perseverance to just keep at it, to just keep at it, to make that training and deal with all the twists and turns that run in. But now here you are sitting with someone that can really help your career. Your mind is getting a little clouded, if I can be a little silly on that. And a successful general is telling you what you really should be doing. and that if you try what you want, if you wanted what you, and if you try what you wanted to try, it's a failure.
Yep.
And what gets me is you defied that. Now, I don't think I would have. I don't know what I would have done, but you've got a teenager here who's speaking to somebody that he looks up to, giving him this really stern advice. I'm very surprised in a way that you, was there something that made you stick to your plan no matter what, that made you stick to your decisions, because that's you were up against some odds there.
Yeah, I mean, certainly it was a call to pause and rethink, what you wanted to do. The road less traveled, that's not something that's unfamiliar to me. Listen to a different drummer. I think that's why I eventually became an entrepreneur. I like to break new paths and try new things. And sometimes, in my opinion, there's less competition. And so there's maybe a better chance to succeed. That's part of what I've done in my career, becoming an entrepreneur. As it turned out, it was for me, it was a good decision. I eventually, out of, I guess we've got 50,000, 60,000 graduates, I got selected 46 years after I graduated as the distinguished graduate at the United States Air Force Academy, the greatest honor I've ever received, in my opinion. And
Wow.
so sometimes traveling the road less traveled, picking the road less traveled, might work for you. So you have to analyze, just as you've asked me, you have to analyze what I really want to do. And can I turn down what seems to be the right path or an easier path, or ever how you describe it. So yeah, it was. And by the way, Mike, his son, who was with us, went on to become chief of staff of the Air Force. The only time in history that the son of a chief has become chief, and so Mike and I are still close friends. Yeah.
That's absolutely amazing. Well, it shows the guts to go forward with with what you believe, which is really a great takeaway. I know we spent a lot of time on this particular story and interview, but for us entrepreneurs and business people out there, if you really believe something, it doesn't matter who says it. It doesn't matter what circumstances come. You stick to your path, as you say, the road less traveled, and make that success. I think that's just really, really key in the bouncing back enterprise that we're kind of forming here. And just we're talking about this book, The Harder I Fall, The Higher I Bounce, and just making that success. And if you want to get the book, which you should, of course you want to get the book.
Thanks, Tony.
There's a link in the description below, and it's coming out on Audible. I'm not sure when, but when it does, we'll put that in the link below. And let's see, what else can I tell you about that book? It's on Amazon. It's just about anywhere, and it's a great read. It's, I know I've mentioned this before. I
Yeah.
love it. I get a lot of laughs on it, and
Yeah.
it takes you back in the past. So I think that's really good, because today's books are a different life, a different
Yeah.
era.
Yeah.
And if you try telling people today about some of the things back then, they're like, "What? How could you live like that? Like, how could you live without the internet or
Yeah.
whatever?"
Yeah.
But it happens, and these are really good lessons.
Well,
But
one of the things I like to tell people, if they're even thinking about reading the humorous stories of my failures, in each one of the stories, there's a principle of what I should have done that I didn't, or did do that I shouldn't have, or how I bounced back. We don't just leave you in the failure mode in the book. But I tell people, look, just read the endorsements. I'm prouder of the endorsements I tell people than I am the book. I never expected that kind of reaction to my stories, and so everybody from the vice chairman of General Motors to Jane Seymour to chief of staff of the Air Force, and all these people wrote nice things. And so if those appeal to you, then you might want to read the book. But if they don't appeal to you, you don't waste your money. You don't read the book. It's not necessary. But I'm proud of the endorsements, and so that tells me that some of the stories have a positive impact that will help people. So You can
I
also get it digitally, by the way. You can download it so you can, put it in your iPhone or whatever. But thank you, Tony. I appreciate that.
And you've got a nice way, the way you wrote it. And I'm an author. I have multiple books out,
Right.
et cetera. But the way you wrote this, is this. Can I say? Should I say the word despite the trauma, or in addition to whatever trauma you had? You have a nice, lighthearted, humorous way of bringing things up. So it's a good read, especially if you want a good laugh. And not that we're laughing at you particularly, just we're laughing at the story because you do a nice humorous job. So I am not that humorous in my books. Okay, you want humor? Which way am I pointing? Go to his book, my book. Not too much humor, but maybe in the future. Maybe if I do an autobiography, we'll see. All right, to our audience, thank you, Max, and to our audience. If you like this podcast, please give it a big thumbs up. Subscribe down below. Click that bell because we're gonna have a few more episodes we're planning to do, and we'll see you on the next episode. Max, once again, I want to thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, sir. Good day.
Good day.